Hello everyone. Today we will begin our exciting exploration of Chinese calendar system. It is to my knowledge of 20 years research that this seemingly dry subject of timekeeping is astonishing in that it has provided evidences to the theory that there once existed a prehistoric global civilization that utilized a particularly advanced fractal cosmology based on time and space, unified by now what's known as sacred numbers, of which we will discuss in more detail at a later time. The Chinese calendar system utilizes a sexagesimal system. For those who are unfamiliar with the nomenclature, it simply means counting by 60. And it is this number that inspired my initial point of reference for investigation, alongside with the degree of importance between Chinese and Greek gods of the heaven. The critical Saturn, Kronos, known in China as the Yellow Emperor, whose throne sits in the middle of all lands, representing the elements of Earth. That is a very important position, of course, to be in the center. The almighty Jupiter, Zeus, known in China as the Superior King, representing the elements of spring. Wood. The fiery Mars, Aries, known in China as the King of Flame, representing the elements of summer fire. The whimsical Mercury, Hermes, known in China as the King of Deluge, representing the elements of winter water. The beautiful Venus Aphrodite, known in China as the King's Queen, representing the elements of autumn metal. So here is a very important but rather a deviation from what we're going to talk about as a calendar system, is that notice the Mercury was given the King of Deluge, and of course is in charge with the elements of water. This actually I will make in a separate video talking about the record in prehistoric time regarding the deluge, the biblical flood that was possibly caused by collision of Venus into Earth. And that actually was also potentially a simultaneous event that created the moon. Okay, not to deviate too much. Coming back, the two kingly astronomical figures in Chinese accounts, namely Jupiter and Superior King, Jupiter the Superior King and Saturn the Yellow Emperor. And it is this dynamic duo that gave the foundation to the Jupiter-Saturn intercalendar system. Also the namesake of Saturn to be Kronos, time, for timekeeping of calendar. A more technical definition of the characters of the said celestial bodies is given also here, although it's in Chinese, but I will explain in English. It's rather simple with numbers. So the orbital periods simplified with J and S in respect to Jupiter and Saturn, one being 12 years, that is roughly 4,332 days. And the orbital period of Saturn is 29.5 years. That is roughly 10,759 days. So because it is a intercalendar system, so one has to unify the shared synodic orbital period of the two. So the formula also is given here as 1 over bracket of 1 over j minus 1 over s bracket end. That gives us 7,253 days, roughly 20 years. So what's important to know, in around 1583, Johannes Kepler has observed and noted the coming together between Jupiter and Saturn every 20 years. The angular sum of the celestial movements of two bodies meeting is 240 degrees. This means for Jupiter and Saturn to meet once again at any initial observation points in reference to a 360-degree orbital tract, in simple terms, returning to 0 point, they have to come together 3 times. So Kepler named and depicted this astronomical phenomenon in 1606 within his book, and named as the trigon of great conjunction. So 20 years times 3, that is 60. So here we can see, basically, let me zoom in, on my other article that gives a pictorial depiction of how the 3 cycles, the 3 units, 3 times meeting of 240 degrees would actually yield 720 degrees, which is exactly 360 degrees in 2 terms. So the ancient example of such records, however, of astronomical as well as calendar system prior to Kepler's rediscovery in decorative form can be seen on the bronze mirror of Shang as early as Shang, but mostly noted in the Han Dynasty prior to and circa 202 BCE. So a good video on the basic information regarding the bronze mirror can be found in the link I will provide within the description, and I strongly suggest watching the video for better visualization and understanding of the 12 earthly branches that were explained within the video that needs to be understood in conjunction with the 10 heavenly branches, which is the remaining puzzle that was not understood nor given explanation by the curators of the artifacts. So here I will add detailed explanation to the 10 heavenly branches with a visual example taken from Smart History Channel, that is the creator of the said video reference, and its respective function to construct the sexagesimal calendar system. So in another word, the sexagesimal calendar system is a unification of 10 heavenly branches with 12 earthly branches. And because of a necessity, I will go through quickly and simply the 12 earthly branches that is also known as the Chinese animal zodiac sign of rat, ox, tiger, rabbit, dragon, dog, pig, etc. Let me pull up the picture for better reference, actually. So this is the mirror, the bronze mirror that was discovered in China, manufactured circa 202 BCE, before Common Era, in the Han Dynasty. Now, the mirror was given the name of TLV because the T, L, and V pattern marked on the cardinal directions as well as ordinal directions of the mirror. So this is important because these cardinal and ordinal directions actually denotes 4 out of the 5 elements. And in the center is the 5th element. And if anyone who watched the Luc Besson's 1999 Fifth Element, one will understand actually it is such a important movie because Luc Besson, for me, understood the Holy Trinity of the ancient cosmology that is also preserved within Chinese culture. So the Holy Trinity in the ancient tradition, in the so-called prehistoric global civilization, is basically the heaven, the earth, and man. So man is actually in between, in the middle, in between heaven and earth. Thus, man is also the 5th element in the center, which represented by yellow emperor. That is the reason why Chinese culture referred to its first emperor as the yellow emperor, to signify the importance of Saturn. That is for those who understood. And this actually hasn't been understood for thousands of years until my recent rediscovery from the older scripture. That is not to say that there were scholars and researchers who understood this before me, but at least within the current sphere of academic records, modern, rarely one mentions the importance and the meaning of yellow emperor to be Saturn. Now, with that established as the Holy Trinity of heaven, earth, with man being in the middle as both the yellow emperor as well as the important Saturn, which esoteric researchers understood that the Saturn worship of the modern or recent brotherhoods. Now, just to go over first the 12 earthly branches, starting from Zi, Chou, Yin, Mao, Chen, Si, Wu, Wei, Shen, You, Xu, Hai, and that is, as earlier already mentioned, Zi is rat, actually corresponding to north, although this mirror is positioned in incorrect direction because the curator, I assume, did not understood the importance of is actually, although it is a earthly branch, but it actually marks the heavenly direction of north. So regardless, but it's important because this is actually, north is winter. So zi, rat, chou, ox, yin, tiger, mao, rabbit, chen, dragon, si, snake, wu, horse, wei, goat, shen, monkey, you, rooster, xu, dog, hai, and that is pig. So all this is very important, and I will make further videos relating to how they function for divination practice as well as Chinese traditional medicine, because this is all fractally interrelated. As you will see, they're all but energy signatures. They're not just some superstitious animal size, but they're rather a anthropomorphic, or even in a sense it is anthropomorphic description of energy. Now, so with the 12 earthly branches reviewed, let's go into the depth of the heavenly branch. As earlier mentioned, each cardinal direction actually represents also a element that is represented by respective planets. So starting from north, this is winter, and this is Mercury, and this is water. So proceeding to east, this is wood, element of wood, that is Jupiter, and that is spring. And this is south, summer, Mars, and this is west, metal, autumn, and that is Venus. So we notice there's only 4 elements, but as we mentioned before, the 5th element is in the middle. But why is the 5th element in the middle rather than occupying a specific corner? It's because the ancient cosmology actually explains for the presence and the existence of, or rather the function of Saturn is precisely residing at the transitional periods of each season. So this is important because Saturn can only have its functional energy when it is observed in the sky that is in the ordinal position. So this, of course, has to be understood by Chinese record that is written and kept. Without such, there is no definition of the 5th element. And the 5th element of this transition actually functions as a transmutation of each energy. That is very, very important. So the earth elements actually include all 4 elements, but functioning at the ordinal position with respective to time in the season as well. So it's both the function of time and space. In fact, the Chinese word of universe or cosmos, 宇宙, literally means space and time, which is very fascinating. So now, why does each element further divided to be 2 knobs being represented here? Because the ancient ancestors that we privileged to have the record of understood very well that the universe is not physical, but rather energetic. So in today's word, in today's analogy, there's no such thing as particle, but waves. So for energy wave, of course, it is composed of both positive and negative, uh, so positive crest and negative trough. That in Chinese is yin yang. So we have the grand cosmic energy, the non-defined, non-elementally defined unified energy that is positive and negative, but then further divided into 5 subsets of energy categories. And so each energy category is now, of course, called the 5 elements. And each 5 elements also has its positive and negative energy. So in this respect, let me pull out another picture, another table to demonstrate just what this is. Actually, this is the final matching between the 10 heavenly branches and 12 earthly branches to generate the 60 specific energy signatures. That is also, of course, both that has the positive and negative characteristics. Now, where is the table of so let's just use this one for reference. We already understand the 12 earthly branches, which of course sits at the bottom of this 60 units. And the top represents of course the heaven. So the heavenly branch is on the top. That is Jia, Yi, Bing, Ding, Wu, Ji, Gen, Xin, Ren, Gui. That's 10. So the positive one, the positive of the wood elements is Jia, and the negative of the wood is Yi, and so on and so forth. So Bing is the positive of fire, Ding is the negative fire, Wu is a positive of earth, Ji is negative of earth, Gen is a positive of metal, Xin is a negative of metal, Ren is a positive of water, Gui is the negative, Ren is the positive water, Gui is the negative of water. Now, this is important coming back to the earlier representation. Now we can see this cross and this kind of hook or L or V shaped corner. Exactly. This is the decorative elements that was portrayed on the bronze mirror. And that is the pattern called the chessboard or the game board pattern. Now we see the L occupying the ordinal directions. And now we see this L, this V occupying the ordinal direction, and the L occupying the cardinal positions. And of course, everyone understand now the center is, of course, the transitioning periods of Saturn and transmutating energy of Saturn. So this, of course, provides the evidence that such a system existed much earlier. So there is a problem of 10 heavenly branch matching the 12 earthly branch because there will always be 2 earthly branches left over with each 10 heavenly branch. But this is easily solved by continuing the next column of the 10, starting matching with the leftover 2 earthly branch. So after such pairing of the heaven and the earth, the generated results will be the 60 energetic pairs. Fascinating. So, of course, NASA recently came out with the recorded sound of the celestial bodies, but just the celestial bodies. However, in the Chinese record of the much older civilization, because it is in our medical compendium known as the Yellow Emperor's Compendium of Medicine, that is said the tradition of Yellow Emperor was preserved from before 5,000 years ago. So that is absolutely fascinating. Now, so on the subject of sound, earlier just mentioned with the NASA's recording, we have, of course, the 60 generated energy signatures that, of course, themselves has also sound value. This I cannot go in detail for the time's sake, and if anyone is interested, I will make this into a series that will explore not only the sound signature, but of course the divination as well as Chinese traditional medicine. Further, the subject of sound, and since we know that China has kept a complete sexagesimal system, let's explore another locale of interest, Babylon. For those who are familiar with the theory of classic musical instrument tuning with the frequency being 432 Hz, let's now take a look at the Babylonian clay tablets of British Museum collection, item number 1 BC 7289. To quote Wikipedia on the interpretation of the numerical diagram, one could extract 2 ways of sexagesimal to decimal system conversion. Let me find that page of Wikipedia for reference. Where is it? No, here. So yeah, this is basically the tablet depicts a square with its 2 diagonals, one side of blah 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 blah, and diagonal of the square is labeled with 2 sexagesimal numbers. And so basically, they extracted 2 ways of sexagesimal to decimal system conversion is calculated to be 1 plus 24 over 60 plus 51 over 60 squared plus 10 over 60 cubed. So the final ratio is the number of 305,470 over 216,000. This is an important number. Keep that in mind. And the other one, 43,200, is also another number of interest. Because as mentioned in the beginning, the prehistoric global civilization and its cosmology is fractal. Here we see the example of number 43,200 and 432 is basically a fractal relation. Knowing the sun's diameter is approximately 865,000 miles and its fractal is twice multiples of 432, which is 865. That is in miles. And this I will come back with another important discovery by Professor Alexander Thom. Furthermore, if one is to multiply 432 with 60, one gets the result of 25,920. This is a number for those who are familiar with the precessional of equinox. Divide 432 by 60, we have 72. It is the number of Solomon's Goetia for those esoteric researchers. And in Chinese agriculture calendar, 72 is basically a composition of 24 minor seasons that is each including 3 stages of the energy transition or transmutation, let's say. So knowing 1 degree equals 60 minutes and 360 degrees equals 21,600 minutes in fractal relation with precision of equinox, that is approximately 21,600. So 25,920 is similar to approximately 21. So the precision of equinox of 25,920 years divided by 12 of Western zodiac houses, that equals 2160. And that is the number approximation to Moon's diameter of 2,159 miles. There are further Chinese divination practice that utilizes even more fractal, but in this video I will not go into. But what is important is basically the 2160 is the diameter of Moon, and the 865,000 miles is the diameter of the Sun, which divided by 2 equals 43200. So these two numbers not only gives a inter-calendar system of Jupiterian, Saturnian, but also denotes the solar-lunar intercalendar system, which of course is still used by Chinese culture to this day. And what is important, as earlier mentioned, discovered by Professor Alexander Thom of researching metrology in Britain in late 1800, early 1900, is that if we to calculate the solar calendar of 365.242 days minus the lunar calendar of 354 days, 354.367 days, and with the leap year of each 4, that means that we have to times 3 and adding to the fourth year, the 32.625 days. That is the basically the days to be added on the fourth leap year. That is a sum of the previous 3. Difference between solar and lunar years. And the 32.625 days in inch equals 2.718 foot. And for those in the financial world or who does mathematics, understand this is the Euler's constant. So basically, Euler's constant is derived based on inch-foot system on the basis of a inter-calendar system between solar and lunar calendar. And this is also the 2.718 Euler number in foot is what Alexander Thom calculated to be the megalithic yard. That is the fundamental measurements for Stonehenge, pyramids, etc. Some small details I forgot to include. Let me quickly add. So, of course, now we all know the trigon of great conjunction, and here is a rather infamous representation of it. And what's more interesting technically is the reading of the symbol of heaven and earth represented by circle and square. So for those who watched the Smart History channel's video on the Metropolitan Museum's collection of this bronze mirror will understand better that the curators already explained that the square represents, of course, the earth and the circle represents the heaven. So what's important is that as a man, we already explained the Holy of the Holy Trinity in between heaven and earth. It is us that measure the heaven, the circular heaven, with instruments of compass. And it is us, the men, who measure the grounds with the square. That is the name of the instrument, also, of course, the square. So measure the square with the square. Now, those are the important add-on I have to make, because depicted in this, unfortunately this one does not have the date on it, but the earliest such depiction on the silk painting is about 618, that is AD, I think. But of course, much earlier examples also exist on not on silk, but in tomb carving, roughly also around 200 BC, the same time as the bronze mirror. And this is our forefather known as Fuxi, and this is our foremother known as Nuwa. And I will try to make another video Chinese version of this is the Babylonian version of Enki. And this Nuwa, the Chinese Nuwa, in Babylonian version is Ninurta. And take a look at what they're holding. Measuring the heaven with compass and the earth with square. Compass and square. Thank you very much.